Hello there, my friends. Chris Marcus here with you. I am from Arcadia Economics and happy to be doing this brief update on what's going on in the silver market because it sure is beyond fascinating. And maybe one way of putting it in perspective, my background included trading equity options on the New York Stock Exchange, which I walked away from in 2012 because I was so stunned at what was building beneath the surface back then, let alone what's happened since then and happening now, where the silver profile is really quite incredible. And the short version of what you've had happening is that silver is priced in paper, which is a little different than physical silver. And as we know on Wall Street, markets get distorted. And essentially, to put that in perspective, I just released a book called The Big Silver Short, where I interviewed 15 silver experts. One of the questions I asked them is that for each ounce of silver that's out there, how many different paper claims exist on it? Different people think they own it. I've yet to hear an answer of lower than 500 to 1. I've heard some numbers that get even bigger than that. But I think you get the point where when you start selling the same thing multiple times, putting leverage on it, you almost guarantee that at some point you have an ending similar to what happened at the conclusion of It's a Wonderful Life. And that seems to be the way Wall Street does things, especially in a lot of the commodities these days. And then what happens then is that sometimes you see things like silver goes to $50 in 2011, and then despite more money printing, more debt, now Jerome Powell wants to print so much money he can't even put a number on it, so they make it unlimited, and yet they give you the impression that an even bigger package will be coming before the end of the year. So that tells you all you need to know from the monetary side. Yet silver, not only is it trading a third of its 2011 high, it's trading a third of its 1980 high, whereas gold now crossing 1800, so about $100 away from its all-time high, double its 1980 high. Silver really hasn't caught up for a few reasons. It's a smaller market. Again, when it's not a hot market, a lot of people lost interest and lost faith. Although I would suggest in my study of markets, if you imagine a fair point would be where there's some energetic balance between the buyers and sellers. Um, well, gee, if you have a world where there's full of impatience and you have the ability to be patient, really creates quite an opportunity, especially at this particular time, because in these last 9 years, well, not much happened with the price. People would say, well, when does this change? When, all right, we get it, it's manipulated. When does that change? And my best guess has always been, well, when you have people saying, hey, I actually want my metal, I'm taking physical delivery, that's what starts to create problems in this scheme. And interestingly enough, it does appear that we have reached that point. And I'm going to share my screen here. What you're looking at now is the delivery report from the COMEX. So this is where the metals are traded. And it shows how much metal is actually being put up for delivery. Now for years, you could say even decades, most of these was just get rolled over. And most people didn't feel a need to take delivery of their metal. You have a housing bubble. Germany asked for their gold back. You say you'll give them 10% over 7 years, and enough incidents like that build up, and people start saying, yeah, unlimited printing, that is quite a bit, and eventually leads to what you see here. Now this is for the gold futures, and you see, you had 14,000, 2,000, 3,000. People were pretty blown away following Corona. There was a surge in demand for metal. And you see here what was at the time a stunning 31,000 contracts delivered. And keep an eye on that. It was maybe the end of the system. Then you have a big 10,000 in a non-delivery month before what we saw last month, where 55,000 contracts, which is a record, were posted for delivery. And as that was happening, you have silver where July was the delivery month. So as myself and a lot of others in the silver community were wondering, gee, well, if people were demanding gold, what happens if they start demanding silver? And sure enough, as we get down to the silver chart, where did you go? There we go. On the first day of the July silver deliveries, already set an all-time record. And now you can see down here, we're up to 14,000 contracts, 13,900. Keep in mind, each contract is for 5,000 ounces of silver. So that's about 70 million ounces that have been delivered. Again, you can see 4,000, 1,300, 4,000, and there's somewhere are considered the delivery months. So you expect more, but still you saw the big number here. And then in July, 13,900. To put that in perspective, that's 70 million ounces. The total amount mined in a normal year is 900 million ounces. The market, according to Silver Institute numbers, was in a deficit last year, and now we're seeing a spike in deliveries. And compounding that is the just rather staggering amount. That was the COMEX. Obviously, if you're in the silver world, you've probably heard of SLV, similar to GLD, which is the gold trust, but SLV at least making the promise that as people buy more shares, metals deposited. Whether that happens is a conversation for another day, and there is some risk there, but at least according to these numbers they're putting out. Now you see the gray line back here is the price, and when silver went down to $12 back in late March, well, that kicked off another cascade of buying, just staggering amounts. Again, you see over here is about maybe 1,125 million ounces were in there, and now we're up to 1,357. So that's about 230 million ounces. Again, in a market that was in a deficit last year, and even last year when the mines were open, they mined 900 million. As I'm sure you're aware, and probably we'll hear more about today in this call, a lot of mines have been shut down. So you could say, in other words, that unless this data is fraudulent, the run on silver and gold, for that matter, has already begun. Interestingly, it appears that same is happening in platinum as well. So while I would not say go out, bet the farm that silver is going to hit $50 this year, certainly the conditions that would proceed whenever that finally happens are really happening now. These are stunning amounts of metal being reported, and to me, it's almost, you're at that place where the two primary outcomes are either the data is fraudulent, which would seem like why would you make fraudulent data if everything is okay, or where the numbers are just staggering. And perhaps I'll end on this note where I do have a show on YouTube each night where I bring different silver experts from around the world, similar to the book. And everybody I've talked to pretty much is in agreement that there's a lot of reasons to love gold, and there's a lot of reasons to be excited about what's happening in the metals and the mining stocks. And if you do like gold or the miners, if you start digging into what's really going on behind the scenes in silver, I mean, you'll be stunned by what you find, and you'll learn more about that in today's call. So I'll wrap up there, but again, pleasure to be here and hope you found that helpful.